The last
And
5 months, I've hit day 1 twice and day 3 3 times.
wow. So we're talking about speed legend climbs here, and then you typically will use secret mage, right?
I will use Secret Mage, and not only will I use Secret Mage, I those 5 climbs, I basically used the same list that a Secret Mage would have played in Saviors of Oldham, but I swapped out Duplicate for his Netherwind Portal, and just literally through Skullomance ran the same list that was successful in Ashes. I just kept running it.
From your perspective, like how do you approach these legend runs?
Well, I think so. You want to talk about legend climbing first?
Yeah, I mean it
Um,
doesn't matter. I guess
sure. Yeah. No.
I think that because once we get into the deck itself,
I
we'll
have
go
I
down a
have
rabbit
both.
hole.
The way I kind of approach my speed run, or just my mentality in general
Well,
toward approaching legend,
kind of
is
both.
I
Yeah.
I want to I want to get it over with as fast as possible. I played soccer pretty competitively through college, from maybe the age of like 5. And so like I really enjoy that intense competition, and I still have like a thirst for it, but at the same point I'm burned out by it. So once I hit legend, like hit legend still, like my boss battles still give me butterflies. um I still have this like feeling like every month that I'm never going to hit legend again. So yeah, I still get butterflies from my boss battle. I feel every month like oh man, last month was a fluke. You're never going to get legend that early again. And like, there are even times when I'm in the middle of my climb that I feel like I'm not going to hit legend, that I'm just going to be stuck at D5 for the rest of the month. Just as ridiculous as that sounds, as I still get that feeling. But I kind of don't want to lose that feeling, because that's kind of what makes hitting legend special for me. But, I had these periods in my life where I had such intense competition that I enjoy it, but at the same time, I'm burned out. So I want to hit legend as fast as possible so I could do dumb stuff for the rest of the month, whether that's achievement hunting, whether that's making passable homebrew and playing that and gatekeeping people. Like my favorite pastime is like gatekeeping Raza priests with my homebrewed beast cracker druid before guardian animals was nerfed. Rip guardian animals. Like I love hitting legend and then being that guy that's just like, wow, it really doesn't matter for me. I have some tips if this sounds like something that you'd want to try. Tip one would be use something fast. I picked Secret Mage, and I just want to plug Cow Tipper and his guide in Ashes of Outland. If you read the guide, the meta, it has shifted so much. Like, so much has changed since the beginning of Ashes of Outland when he made the guide. But the general principles on how to play Secret Mage is still good, and I'm still using those principles. And part of the reason why I use Secret Mage is my games last an average of 5 to 6 minutes. Now, Nate, I think it's going to be a great contest between you and I as to who plays faster, because I play on mobile and I probably take a couple seconds per turn. Mostly because I'm doing most of my thinking on my opponent's turn,
I do the
and
same. Yeah.
and I react pretty instinctively. And if you play a deck long enough, I feel like you can kind of like make a lot of the correct plays reacting instinctively. But there are a couple times I'll catch myself being like, "Oh, I should have slowed down and done this instead." But for the most part, I just jam games as fast as possible. So I would use something fast first and foremost.
I just want to say,
Second,
I sorry, let
go
me
ahead.
interrupt you real quick.
No, go ahead,
I
please.
kind of do, I do that same thing, right? Where typically will play pretty fast, and that's what people will harp on me for. Is like, hey, you're playing too quickly. But I will say that I do the same thing where I feel like the game is a lot like chess, where you're planning your moves out ahead of time. So typically on turn one, I can tell what my opponent's deck is already, unless they play nothing for whatever reason. But typically, you know right away what it is. Okay, how am I going to counter that? And then I'm looking at my hand, and right off the bat, I know, okay, what is my plan? Turn one, turn two, turn three, turn four, based on my hand. And then I think about that during their turn, and then okay, what are my options? I can play on any given turn. Typically, you've got 1, 2, 3 options, maybe depending on what deck you're playing. And so, okay, my plan is to do this, but if they do something crazy, then here's my backup plan. And so then I watch them play, and then typically, I already knew what my plan was, and then I just execute it. And people are like, oh my God, slow down. I do think that there is something to be said for taking your time and thinking things through. You want to think about all the different possible outcomes, but I also agree with what you said in that, the more you play a deck, you start to learn the ins and outs of it. What, synchronizes well with, with each other. What are the different possible outcomes, or what are the kind of combos that not everybody sees right off the bat? I mean, I play a lot of Q Block, and so there's some things that you don't learn, I guess, until you've done it 100 times, and I think that you could say that about pretty much any deck. So I agree with you there. I just wanted to kind of back up your point there, but I agree.
All right, so my next tip would be to use something you enjoy. Like, don't just like play aggro druid because like that's a fast deck. I would pick something that's fast that you enjoy. Hopefully you can find something that you enjoy. Like I would even like venture, like these days, if I was going to try my legend climb with something other than secret mage, I might even try to do it with like a mech hunter, like just like a really fast go wide aggro deck that like I used to enjoy back in the day, because it's just, you're going to be playing a lot of games, so whatever you're going to play, you better enjoy it. If you don't enjoy aggro druid, I don't suggest jamming aggro druid. Find something that you enjoy. Play dude paladin. Play something that's aggressive and fast, but something that's fun.
But you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, your climb is not going to be fun. And I think that part of that, there's a lot of psychology here. And if you're not having a good time, you're not going to be as successful.
When I hit legend on like a day 3, we're talking about I've played upwards of 140, 150, sometimes 160 games. That's a lot of games to put in 3 days. You're going to want to enjoy the deck you're playing. The thing that's going to stop you from swapping decks necessarily to something that, this is kind of my third tip, so I'm kind of like weaving it into my third tip. I wouldn't swap decks until you hit D5. I wouldn't start like playing this like counter queue, like rock, paper, scissors. It's like, oh, my pocket meta, until you hit like a D5 day 1, because it doesn't really take until like D5 day 1 when you start seeing the same people over and over again.
Yeah.
And you start knowing who you're playing against. But when you start seeing the same person over and over and over again, you start to learn what their deck is right when you see their user tag. So you're like, okay, it's this, and it helps your mulligan. So even that little bit of information can help, and that's kind of like my one little taste of like what it must be to be high on the legend ladder, where you're queuing into the same people over and over again. You kind of sort of learn what decks they're playing. And the same thing happens day 1 at D5. You start seeing the same even. You will never see so many even shamans as when you get to Diamond 5 on day 1. Like they're everywhere. So I wouldn't swap decks to, let's say, like an Odd Warrior or like a Raza Priest until you hit Diamond 5. Because really, once you hit Diamond 5, you've only completed half of your legend climb.
Especially if you don't have that sweet 11-star bonus.
I am 10 stars for life. Like I've never hit legend with 11 stars. I've never played good enough decks for long enough in a month to ever earn 11 stars, and I probably never will. I guess my final tip number 4 would be, and I've underlined this on my notes, it's don't tilt. Just don't get upset. Don't start playing badly because you feel your emotions are starting to get the better of you and you're starting to get frustrated with the game. Understand that it's a card game. It's a card game with RNG involved. Like with normal card games, bad luck happens. With normal card games with card games with RNG, it's like twice as likely to happen. Just roll with the flow. Sometimes you just go next. On the matches that you lose, I try to spend more time thinking about when I lost that match than losing the star. If you're thinking more about how you lost the game than opposed to, oh, I lost a star because I lost that game, you're in really good shape. And part of what helps me not tilt is the second article I had you attach, Nate, which was all about these simulations that Hearthstone-decks.net. It's Neon's site. He does an awesome job, but he put out this article and it really helped me stave off some tilt. He looked at different simulations and how long it would take given your star bonus, your win rate, and the number of games you play. On average, how long would it take for you to hit legend? And the numbers are pretty accurate. At least they work pretty accurately for me. It says the average number of games I should hit should be somewhere between 120 and 200, and I'm usually around 140 if it's a really hot month and I hit day 1. You can kind of figure out, once you know your win rate, you can kind of figure out exactly how many games it's going to take for you to hit legend. And as long as you're not tilting while you're playing those games to the point where it's hurting your play. If you're thinking about your play constructively and about how you can improve, and you're keeping your mindset positive, the more games you play, the closer you're going to get to where you want to go, whether it's Legend, whether it's Diamond 5, whether it's Diamond 10, whether it's Plat 5, like, because you've never gotten there before. Just concentrating on improvement and like how you could improve, and knowing that the odds are on your side, that the more games you play, the better off you are. I don't set rank goals for myself. Sometimes what I'll do, like, okay, so like last month was probably one of the most brutal climbs I've ever witnessed. 1/3 of my games were against either aggro druid or Reno priest. I was good enough in those matchups. I went 10-9 against Reno priest, and I went 16-9 against the aggro druids. That those weren't my worst matchups. It's just like it felt like a slugfest the entire way up.
That's funny. I want to jump on this a little bit because I'm kind of in the same boat where it was last month I did that. I jammed. I think it was on day 3 I hit. And I was playing there with Q Block. But like I put in close to 200 games. On my final stretch, I went 10-2 or something like that. What people need to keep in mind is when you see these things posted on Twitter or Reddit or whatever, like, of course, I'm going to post, hey, I just hit Legend. I went 10-2 with my Q Block list, and here's my list. And when I sat down and I looked at that 200 game chunk, 55% win rate. Like, that's what it was. And then I looked at my overall win rate. And then we had Smudge on the show not too long ago, within the last month or so, who is like the Kingsbane expert, right? And she was talking about it, and she pulled up her win rate, and she hits Legend every single month for years. And it was the same thing. She goes, hey, I'm looking at my overall win rate here. It was like 55 to 57%. And so that's very normal.
If you're playing an aggro deck, you can do it.
And there you
Totally.
go.